Hello everyone, welcome to Tech Sharmit. In this session, we are going to talk about another few attributes related to button tag. Prior to this session, we have already discussed various other things related to buttons, like how many types of button we have, how we can utilize it, what are the purpose of using different kind of buttons. So these all things we have already discussed, right? So in this session, we are just going to talk about two attributes related to button, which is autofocus and disabled. So we'll try to understand like how we can create a button with the attribute disabled and what is the purpose of it. And similarly, what is the process to utilize the attribute autofocus and what is the purpose of it. So these all two things we are going to discuss in this particular session. But before we start the session, I would like to recommend you to please go and check out the previously released sessions first, because these all sessions of playlists are in proper sequence and sync. So if you follow them sequentially, then it would be very easy for you to understand the ongoing topic. Okay, because for now we are just focusing on the button part, but prior to that we have already discussed other basic thing related to HTML. So if you have not watched those sessions, then you can watch because they all are connected with each other. Okay, so for now, like you can see my screen here, I have just noted down the basic code in one of my demo program. Here you can see only the comment is mentioned and the one heading is mentioned, which is HTML by text method. Now I'll show you the output of this code and then we will write this everything from scratch. Okay, the other main things. So I'll just save it and refresh my browser, so you can see it is coming like this, HTML by text method. Now what we are going to do, we are going to create, or you can say write the program step by step. So firstly we will mention the heading for the topic, for today's topic. So here I will write h1, or maybe we can go with h2 because h1 is already there. So here, but it is not mandatory that you have to use h2. You can use h2 as h1 as well. Okay, but just for the appearance purpose, like I'm going to change it. So attributes of button in attributes of button tag in HTML. Okay, so this is our main topic. So I've just save it, refresh the browser, so you can see it is coming like this. Now we we are in a series of forms, HTML forms. So it's time to utilize form, and like everything we are learning in the terms of forms. So it's better to create a form first and then we will. But it is not fixed that you have to use button only in forms. You can use it outside the form as well. But we are learning in terms of forms. So let's create one form first. So here I will write form. In this form, we will firstly declare one input field. So here I'll write input, and in this input field we will provide the type as text. Okay, so type as text, and after that we will give it a name. So let's give name username. Okay, so this is just for the demo purpose. So this one thing we need. Now other than this, like we will declare what first button as a disabled button. Okay, so first button we are going to create as disabled. So for that, okay, let me show you this part only. So you can see now it is expecting text from us, and also we will assign a form action here, and action would be tspgm10. Now what is tspgm10? It's a page that we have already created. You can use any HTML page here. So what it will do now, like on pressing enter, for example, if I write something like this, so after clicking on button, at the moment we don't have button, right? But when we click on button, it will take the data to next page. This thing we have already discussed. So now it's time to learn about the disabled attribute. But let me add one normal button first and then we will add disabled attribute. Okay, so here I'll write h3 normal button without, or we can write it like this, button without any attribute, button without any attribute. Okay, fine. So let's add that button. So here I will write button, and let's give it a name submit, and here also I'll just although type is also an attribute, but we are not talking about this. We are talking about only those two attribute, disabled and autofocus. Okay, so here I will write submit. It's better to write here like button without disabled, button without disabled attribute. Okay, so it will give you clear picture. Fine. Now let's save it and refresh the browser. So now what you can see, if here I write for example ABC and click on submit button, it will take my data to the next page and you can see username is ABC. So this is the button where we are not using disabled attribute. Now let's add disabled attribute. So here I will write button with disabled attribute. Okay, so let's see the difference. So here I will write again button and submit name, and this time I will apply the type as or if you don't want to apply type, that is also fine, but let's apply because maybe later we can change it. And here I'll write disabled, save it and refresh it. So now you can see button is here, but it is not enabled for user. That means users are not supposed to click on this button. So this is the advantage of using disable button. But some of you might be thinking like, why we are declaring this button if you don't want to user to use it? Because like there are some scenarios where we want to give a authority for buttons to a specific user. For example, let's say we all know about JavaScript and other advanced things, right? So we wanted to create a project where we want to give one form that can only be submitted by admin, not by the normal user. So if and these all things can be verified with ID. So let's say if uh, admin ID is used to access the form, then this button will be enabled. But if other user ID is used, then this button would be disabled. So in this type of situation, we will utilize this disabled attribute. Clear? Fine. Now let's talk about the another type of attribute, which is autofocus. So for that, I will write another tag here, or maybe the heading first. So here I'll write button without auto focus attribute. Okay, so we have added without autofocus attribute. So same thing, like it will work same as above button. So let's give it as submit, type as submit. Fine, let's save it and refresh the browser. So you can see it is a normal button. If I click on this, it will take me to the next page. As I have not provided anything in the field, that's why it is coming as a blank. And if you provide anything in this, it will take this value. Okay, so this is just a normal button. Now what we are going to do, we are going to add a button with the autofocus attribute, and we'll see why we are using autofocus. Okay, so let me add the heading first. So here I'll write heading button with autofocus attribute. Clear? Now let's add that button. So button, here I will write submit button, and type would be submit, and the attribute would be auto focus. Alright, so let's save it and refresh your browser. So now you can see this button is bit different from other buttons. These two buttons are same because these are normal button without any kind of attribute, without disabled or autofocus attribute. But this button is different because we are using disabled attribute. So in case of disabled, we are not supposed to click on it, right? If you try to click it, it will not take the action, right? It will not do anything because it is disabled. Similarly, if you focus on the autofocus button, it is bit different. Why? Let me show you. You can see now it is autofocus. That means let's say if I click somewhere else, so now autofocus is removed. But when I refresh the browser again, so you can see the focus is on this button. So when you want to highlight a specific button, for example, on a web page, there are multiple buttons we have. So if you want to highlight a particular button, so in that case, what you can do, you can use autofocus. But the thing is that when you click somewhere else, for example, if I click here, so you can see the focus is removed because now you have clicked it purposely. But on the very first interaction with the web page, you will find this highlighted. You can see here a dark border is there because it is an autofocus mode, and it will be retained in autofocus mode until you click somewhere else. So if I click here or anywhere, it will lose the focus. But when you refresh the browser, you can see it is again in the focus mode. These all buttons are normal button, but this is autofocus button. Okay, so this is how we can utilize the autofocus button in a HTML in order to show the button with high priority. I hope the session is clear to all of you. In the next session, we will discuss few more things. So thank you for watching Tech Sharmit.